I'm Michael Alcantara, president of Alcantara Media, internet marketing and technology consulting firm. We do web development, social media, search engine optimization. Don't have a presentation prepared for you guys. Was working real late with a client the last couple of weeks that I just acquired. His name is Tom Green. You might have heard of him. Pretty funny comedian. So I'm working with him on redeveloping his new website. Ryan.
Is he still doing the show?
The channel show that he did online. Well, no, that got canceled on MTV, but he put it online now. So we're redeveloping
It's back.
Yeah. Well, not yet. We're putting it up again. He's been touring a lot this last couple of years.
He's gonna go back on.
Yeah, he's trying to go back online and still do touring. So I'm kind of helping him with that. It should be cool. Ryan asked me to talk about e-commerce. I've developed several e-commerce websites from start to finish, and I've worked with clients on acquiring merchant accounts and setting up payment processors for their shopping cart. So I'm just basically going to itemize the items that you basically need to do so you can start selling your own things online. The first thing you need to know is your goals, what you're currently selling, what you want to sell in the future, and how you want to sell it, and do you see yourself going into different markets potentially. This question is very important. These questions are very important because they could mean the difference between thousands of dollars. Reason why, you can start with selecting a hosted solution like Delusion or Shopify, where you have very little control of what you're selling, and you're also limited on what and how many you can sell. So you're stuck with their platform and the way they work. They do have hosted support, which is a good thing, but you pay monthly for it. It's a little cheaper. But if you eventually want to, in the future, branch out to another market and you already have brand popularity, to come from a Shopify or a Illusion shopping cart to a big one, which what I'm going to talk about now, is very difficult and very time consuming and very expensive. So I'm going to talk about the top two shopping carts that I use, that I set up clients with, and that's Magento and OpenCart. And they're the behemoths of the shopping cart self-install industry, as you would say. And basically, you start off with buying a domain, the domain that you want. You're going to have to buy hosting. You want to look at theming. You either buy a theme or hire a developer to design a theme for you. You install the shopping cart. And I know this, I'm going through it very fast, but basically it's just, Magento is what you call an open source solution, which the code is already out there in the internet for you to download and put on your server and go to a URL that automatically installs it for you. Once you have the theming, it's just a matter of configuring it and then adding in your products. So once you've done that step, basically you're going to select the shipping method. And a very important aspect of setting up a shopping cart, because shipping methods depend on how many you want to sell, where you want to sell to, and not just that, the tax rules are very important. Depending on what state you are, you may need to certify a particular tax rule that they're going to be taxed a certain percentage depending on the state that you're in. Some states require it just for that state. Some states also require it depending on where the customer is when they're purchasing the item online. So you have to figure that out as well. The next thing I want to talk about is setting up the payment method. And this goes back to kind of like the hosted solution versus the self-install as well. When you're setting up your payment method with hosted solutions, they usually provide you a payment processor. You have to use what they're using, or sometimes you have to do it through PayPal. Well, with the self-install is very similar as well. Only thing is that if you go with the PayPal route, one, is more expensive. And secondly, you take your visitor from your website out of it and take them to the PayPal store or the PayPal domain where they have to pay through there. Then getting them back to your website is a little bit more difficult. So usually I tell clients to get with a merchant account and get a payment processor. I'm going to teach you guys how to do that right now. So basically, getting a merchant account requires a couple things first. You have to buy a SSL, which is a secure socket layer certificate, and you have to buy what's called a dedicated IP. And when you're selecting your hosting, it's very important that you're aware of this, because a dedicated IP cannot be mounted onto a server that's already hosting other domains. Or at least you don't want to do that, because that dedicated IP is to that server. So what I see a lot of clients doing is that they have multiple domains and they're all hosted as add-on domains on the same server. If they drop a dedicated IP on that, they can't drop a dedicated IP for another website. So dedicated IP is for that one website. So something to keep in mind when you're selecting that. So again, when selecting a merchant account, you need a dedicated IP, and you need a dedicated IP because that's the only way you can mount the SSL certificate. The reason why you need that is because banks require that in the process of getting your merchant account. Another thing you're going to need is a terms page, privacy policy page, and a return policy page. These things are all required by the banks before they even give you a merchant account. Once you acquire the merchant account, you're going to have to select the payment processor. Things you want to keep in mind is if the payment processor even have a module that integrates with the shopping cart that you're using. Because if not, then you're going to have to pay developers to create a module, an API that connects with their API to get the information to them and process them. Another thing you want to keep in mind of is fraud. You want to work with a payment processor that has a fraud analyzer tool that filters the transactions. Chargeback fees on fraud are about $15 that you get hit with. So if you're processing transactions, $20 items, $30 items, for you to get charged a fee for $15, that's half of your profit, if not all of it. And then finally, once you've selected your payment processor and installed the module and have done everything that I just mentioned, you need to test. It's probably the most important thing when setting up a shopping cart. Test, test, test. You want to test the usability of the shopping cart, you want to test the ordering system, and you want to test the payment methods. I work with clients that have set up the shopping cart, but they didn't configure the emails correctly. So I had to go in and fix the email for them, but they were getting orders live, and none of the customers were receiving orders. So the customer service bill was through the roof. They were outsourcing it, so they were getting a lot of calls with customer service because customers didn't know if the order went through. Again, another costly mistake. Payment methods. I had a client who continuously, every time a customer processed the payment processor was authorizing the transaction twice, but only settling it once. But the problem is when the customers were looking at this, they were calling in their banks and canceling it, yet the customer got hit with about $1,500 in chargeback fees the next month. So all could have been avoided if they did their homework prior to releasing their site. So that's my spiel.
Woohoo! Because like Ryan just made us a nice web store, online store. Well, it's like sandboxforall.online store, so I guess the company's online store for free, and it looks like a professional web store, you know. So what are kind of the pros and cons? When would you want to do your own merchant processing and everything?
Okay, that's a good question. With a hosted solution like that, I'm sure there's a limit to how many items you can put onto that store, and also what types of items you can sell. And one of the first things that I talked about is basically knowing your goals, knowing where you're going to see yourself 5, 10 years down the line with your company selling stuff online. Do you see yourself getting into a new market? Do you see yourself maybe selling internationally? You're going to run into issues when you get to that point because most hosted solutions can't support that initially. So from that perspective, I would recommend something like Magento that has what's called store views that you can literally change on the same domain what a person sees depending where they're coming from. So that's the flexibility that an installed solution gives.
So it's like if it was just a small mom and shop or somebody wants to sell crafty stuff online or something, it makes sense. Because I think they charge some points in there. I don't
Yeah, they usually charge percentage points of the transaction, and also they charge a monthly fee. Another thing that if you do your own hosted solution, you just pay the fee for the developer to set up your shopping cart, and that's it.
Right.
And you're done. So I mean, that's a pro for doing your own shopping cart. It is a lot more expensive though. But it's worth it in the end instead of having to wait, 5 years on the line when you want to expand and now you need to hire a developer to figure out how to import all of your inventory and your data into a new database and who knows what else.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? Mark?
Are there tools to submit once you're on the shopping cart to like the different search engines, to other places online for your products?
Yeah, absolutely. I know Google Shopping has an XML tool that you literally import all your products